I'm Joe Hart, and no, this is not another football podcast. This is Footballers Unfiltered from FIFPRO, the global union for professional footballers, bringing you the real and honest conversations from players on and off the pitch, straight to you. There are games that test every part of you, and few compare to Celtic versus Rangers in Scotland. I remember standing across the pitch from Leon Balogun, hearing the noise, the rivalry, the emotion. It's football at its fiercest. But for Leon, that same intensity has raised a bigger question. Where's the line between passion and abuse?
I don't want to step on anyone's toes there, because I obviously know how important supporters are to our game, to our sport. But I feel that over, let's say past 10, 15 years maybe, there's a level of entitlement that has joined that has become unhealthy.
A football pitch is a player's workplace, and in almost every profession, safety on the job is a fundamental right. So why doesn't that protection always extend to footballers? According to FIFPRO's Workplace Safety Report, 76% of player unions say safety is now a growing concern, and 68% believe violence and abuse have become normalised in football culture.
Social media has become a thing, like this massive tsunami where just voices of people get collected and they just flood you over, and you just drown in it if you don't know how to deal with it.
From the Premier League to dramatic European campaigns to the World Cup with Nigeria, Leon has faced some of football's toughest sides, and today we talk about what it will take to make the game safer for everyone. So before we bring Leon in, I'm always joined by a FIFPRO rep. Today I'm joined by Gotcha Michelle. Gotcha, what do you do in FIFPRO?
Yeah, my current position is the deputy to the chief executive in the Indonesian Players Union, where together with the team, we make sure the footballers in Indonesia are protected.
Brilliant. And have you got any examples of how you do that?
Yeah, we protect them in many aspects, like the contracts, the disputes between the contracts for the players and the clubs, the welfare, and as well as the safety, because we want the players to feel heard and protected, especially when the things get difficult most of the times.
What I've noticed with all the FIFPRO reps that I talk to, as well as the great jobs that you guys are doing, education's key for the players and really key for the agents, especially when it comes to contractual disputes.
Yes, because, most of the athletes, not only footballers, I think they're just focused in the field, right? Yeah. And someone has to do this job, how to educate them more, because the professionality as the athletes or the hard work itself can be perfect if they have combined it with the more education they have, because it's all about the professionality and the contract, right, at the end of the day for most of athletes.
And one of the things I noticed in Indonesia, really interesting actually, with the online abuse, and it feels like you can be getting it from angles where you never get to meet these people, but you've got a different way of doing things.
Yeah, because we realize punishment alone doesn't always fix this behavior. Yeah. Right? When players actually meet the person, the abuser, directly, that person often realizes that the impact for the players, because those conversations between the abuser and the players can be emotional.
Yeah.
Especially if the abuse is about the racism. Players can talk directly to the abuser about how it affected their confidence and also affected the family as well. And most of the time, the abuser genuinely apologized to the players and they stop redoing it, because they know the consequences.
And we're moving on to Leon, and he's got quite a strong voice.
Yes.
He's raised some really interesting points. What is it that you're hoping that he shares with us today?
I hope Leon helps people to understand that safety for the players is everyone's responsibility, not only for the union. He speaks very openly about respect and boundaries. And I think that his honesty encourages other players to be able to speak up to like him.
100%. Well, let's get into it with Leon. He's joining us now. So here we have Leon Balogun joining us all the way from Cyprus. Appreciate it, mate. How's things?
I think Cyprus sensed that I'm going to speak to people in the UK today because it's raining. But overall, it's been nice. It's the first autumn I have actually in around 25 to 30 degrees. No leaves falling, no nothing. It's interesting, new, but enjoyable.
Yeah? But yeah, we were just saying off air that you enjoy the UK weather, right?
Yeah, I'm the UK in general. It's a place I miss. Me and my girlfriend both. We said like 3 weeks ago or something, because she had been to London for work. 2 days in, she texts me, "Oh, I miss the UK." I was like, "Yeah, I can understand. It's a special place. We've been blessed to live in very nice places: Glasgow, London, Manchester, Brighton, and yeah, special people, fun people, and gonna see me again for sure."
That's cool. So how's the football going out there?
Good so far. They're a bit up and down, but that's still the Rangers mentality in me, I would say. Because if you're not first, then obviously you're not good enough.
Yeah.
And the minute we had joined first, dropped a few points unnecessarily, but overall it's nice. It's different. It's very hot out here. Now it has cooled off, but the first few months were tough.
Yeah.
You play in like 28 degrees, extreme high humidity. And you basically have to swap your whole kit at halftime. Different challenges, but overall enjoyable. They have a nice little setup here. Aris Limassol, the club I play for, they try to do the most in order to raise the standard. Obviously, Cyprus, in terms of the league, is nowhere near the Premier League in the UK or in England, Scottish Premiership, even Championship. So they're trying to get there bit by bit, but obviously it takes time, so they need to build.
Yeah, you having to adjust your playing style at all with the weather and all those sorts of things coming into account?
I would say that overall, playing for Nigeria in the past has helped me to deal with the weather and everything. So the time for adaptation was not too long, actually.
Love that. And then just on that Nigeria, just one thing that really comes to mind is that amazing game against Argentina, 2018. Just to go quickly on your reflections of that sort of pinnacle of your sport.
I don't remember it as that amazing. Obviously, the scenes, the atmosphere was crazy. I think there was 65,000 in the stadium. It felt like everything was just white and blue for Argentina.
Yeah.
And it was insane. But I had my parents at the stadium. I think I got us a penalty, which brought us back into the game after Messi scored an absolute worldie. Yeah. I remember that. And unfortunately, like 5 minutes to go or something, we conceded a goal. And that was us out of the competition. A draw would have been enough to advance. And then we would have played France. But yeah, I guess we saved Messi from a big embarrassment, exiting in the group stages. And yeah, but then again, you saved the penalty against them, huh? So we have that in common.
Yeah, but I know that those fine lines you talk about. You know, one of my playing World Cup experience was, it wasn't even that bad a performance. You know, we played Italy, we lost 2-1 in a close game. We played Uruguay, lost 2-1 in a close game. Could have gone either way, like your situation there. And then you go home, which is really disheartening, actually.
Yeah, those are tough. I remember I sat on the pitch, dropped a few tears. I wiped them away with Messi's shirt like an hour after the game.
Of course.
But still, overall, it was just, yeah, because obviously, you know yourself, you play to win, you want to be successful. And it would have been a massive achievement for us because we played Croatia in the first game, lost 2-0, had no chance. They were just so good and kept us at bay. Then we beat Iceland in the second game. And then obviously we came back from being behind 1-0 against Argentina with obviously Messi. Was Aguero on the pitch? I think he was on the pitch as well. Di Maria. That was a tough game, and we really put in a shift. And then to go out just before the end, it was heartbreaking. Probably playing against France in the next round, who went on to win the tournament.
Yeah,
might have been our stop then. But I'm still going to keep the memories for being part of a World Cup. We had this electric shirt as well that the whole world wanted to buy.
Unbelievable shirt.
So, yeah.
What's it like being a Super Eagle? Because growing up, we had the African nations on our TV. It was always on BBC Two. I didn't have paid for TV, so it was always a tournament that I loved to watch. And Nigeria just always had that kind of flair, the shirts, everything about it. What's it like being a Super Eagle?
It's intense because you get showered with love. Because in my case, I'm born and raised in Germany.
Yeah.
I wasn't in touch with the Nigerian culture too much. That's a big difference, for example, between me and the likes of Alexi Iwobi, Ola Aina, Ademola Lookman, Kelvin Bessie, all players who are there now. William Truss Ekong, who grew up more or less in the UK as well, because he went to school there. The Nigerian culture is part of UK culture, more or less, because there's so many Nigerians. I didn't have that in Germany, really. And it was interesting at first for me, because you think, okay, how is this going? How is this going to be? And I remember my first camp, there was a big John Obi Mikel there, and Victor Moses was there, a few other players, and I was like, wow. I used to play with these guys on PlayStation even,
Yeah.
even though we're not that far apart, but I joined late. Obviously, they became pros early on, and people see you have that dedication for that country. They're just like, oh, come, we welcome you. And for me, it was always a really, really nice time. But then at the same time, if it doesn't go well, it's tough. It's really tough, because I said it in the past that I think playing for the Nigerian national team prepared me for what it's like to be exposed to the level of expectation that you have at Rangers, for example.
Yep.
Because losing is not allowed, basically. You're Nigeria, you're the king of Africa, and it doesn't matter if there's countries like Egypt, Morocco, Cameroon, Senegal. It doesn't matter, really.
Yeah.
You just have to win.
Well, we're obviously going to have to talk about it, aren't we? Rangers and Celtic, we both sit here proud to represent both those special clubs. Talk to me about your time at Rangers.
Special. I said to you before, like the UK has become very special to me. Glasgow, especially, it feels like my spiritual home almost. Proper infected with the blue fever.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to play for that club twice. I've won everything domestically. I went to a European final. And I think that brought something out in me that I didn't know was there before. I felt it like in nuances maybe, but like this winning mentality that I've just touched on, the expectation levels, because I think you need really thick skin in order to be able to play for either of the clubs. Because you will know if things don't go the way fans expect it to, who are the heartbeat of both clubs, it's not pretty. You think about, should I go out for that dinner tonight after drawing a game, which in almost every other club in the world would be completely fine.
Yeah.
But there it's like, okay, you drew. You want to go out for dinner? Scrap that. Stay home.
Yeah.
So special place, special people. Very warm, very direct, but yeah, don't mess about.
Yeah, you talk about that kind of mentality, and you can't play out, right? You have to believe it. You have to think it's perfectly fair that you can't go out for dinner. You have to think that that's the right decision. Because I've experienced it, and some players can't get their head around it, and I totally understand why people wouldn't be able to get their head around it. But I'm in the same camp as you. Like, they're the expectancies. So don't complain about it. That's what you're signing up for.
That's how I always looked at it. So when I was signed, my agent told me back then, and he looked after Kenny Miller as a player.
Yep.
And he told me the same thing. They were like, you hear loads of things, but you need to be there in order to understand it. Maybe there's a question I can ask you. Obviously, you grew up probably watching the old firms and so many games, and you heard about it, the rivalry. But did you think it would be that intense before you actually then signed for Celtic and played, especially in the old firms?
This will sound like a strange answer, but I choose not to think when it comes to stuff like that, because I knew Fraser Forster, who played at Celtic, and I knew various players who played for both teams. And from people that I respected and understood and knew how to communicate, they would always say, there's no point in me trying to explain, you've got to feel it. So I just thought, that's the way I'm going to play it. There's no point in me trying to prepare myself. There's no point in me having expectations. I'm going to go and I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to see how it plays out. And it was everything that I wanted it to be, the madness, the rivalry, the spirit, the repercussions. It was everything that I wanted it to be, good and bad. Maybe that's the sicko in me, but that was what I really, really wanted, especially in that point in my career when I'd experienced very, very high and then kind of a mediocre middle bit. I wanted that high again. But I know to get that high, you're on a knife edge, because if it doesn't come, there's going to be repercussions. And I appreciated that, and I loved it for that.
But that speaks to your mental strength as well, because I think you need that. If you don't have it, that resilience to outside noise, to expectation, I think you're not made for either of the two. You can't survive, because it's going to get to you one way or another.
Yep.
So yeah, credit to you, because like you just said, I was going to ask you before. You've been at the high, basically England's number one, and then you've received loads of criticism for all sorts of things. And you say it's the sicko in you. I would say it's ambition, especially at the height or towards the end of your career, to say, I'm going to go for that again and I'm going to embrace it. Obviously, I don't like that you had so much success over us, but still credit to you. Credit where it's due.
Appreciate it, man. So I know you've talked about a code of conduct between players and fans. Is there anything that triggered that? Is there any specific moment, or is it something that's just continual?
I don't want to step on anyone's toes there, because I obviously know how important supporters are to our game, to our sport. But I feel that over, I don't know, let's say past 10, 15 years maybe, there's a level of entitlement that has joined that has become unhealthy.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, if you're not in that arena, you only see so much. You don't know what us in the stadium in that point, or in that scenario, what we are facing, what type of mindset you go into the game with, how your training week has been, what has happened in your private life. So all these things that affect any human being, we have to just clear them out. But it can obviously affect us. And there might be days where you're successful in just canceling everything out and do your job and then go back to it. And there might be days where you're not. And on those days, you might have an off day. You might have a lapse for one moment. And that's the only thing that people then see, and you just get run over. And again, social media has become a thing, like this massive tsunami where just voices of people get collected and they just flood you over. And you just drown in it if you don't know how to deal with it, if there's no if there's no sort of protection for you. And I think those were just things that I've observed, because I like to think a lot, actually. I can get quite deep and just like, okay, why is it like that, and where does this come from? And then obviously if you experience things yourself, then that just takes you over even more. I remember one time in 2017, I think that was, maybe 2018, early, where one of my teammates, I played in Germany at the time, played for Mainz, and we played against Hannover 96, which was my first professional club, actually. And we were just warming up in front of their stand, and they started making like monkey noises to one of my teammates who's also Nigerian. And I just then started to say, like, stop that. And then they went on to go against me and used a few rather unfriendly words. And there were kids around as well. And they were just chanting. And I sat in the moment, right? I still knew one guy who was in charge of security, and told him about it. And he actually knew exactly from what corner of the stadium that came from. So they were aware of it. And then I made it public, got massive backlash from the Hanover fan scene, because they thought I was mistaking a chant they were making for one of their black players, actually, who is a friend of mine because we used to play together. They thought I was mistaking that for monkey noises and stuff. But I knew directly, because I looked those guys in the eyes, how they were just going against my teammate warming up with me. And fair place to him, he just smiled at them and waved, which tells me he's been through this way too many times. He just tried to laugh it off. But these type of things just make you think, like, what's wrong with people? And then you obviously start to speak out, made it public, like I said before. And these people actually got a life ban from the club in the end, which was nice to see. But you always wonder, what can you actually do to just avoid it at all, which I think you can't. But you have to sanction it. And those are the type of things where I'm feeling like the entitlement has reached a level where people are just not scared anymore.
Yeah, it feels like the repercussions need to be there, and that's obviously something that I've never experienced, and I'm gutted, devastated that you could walk into a football stadium or be anywhere and have to experience those sort of things. But it takes a brave man to speak out, because you're always going to be misunderstood. It's ironic that what you've seen and what you've experienced would be questioned. It shouldn't be questioned straight away. If you've got that opinion, or you feel, or you've seen or felt something like that, should immediately be supported. It's so disheartening, and it's a disgrace, really, that you can walk into your place of work and have to experience something like that. But credit to you and your friend for speaking out. Why do you think it's so difficult for players to speak out when it comes to online or, in the stadium abuse?
I think because one is, you feel like you can't really do something by your own or on your own. And I also think, when it comes to the issue of racism in particular, which that one obviously was, I think there's a probably experience that many players have where they feel there's a lack of support. A lot of the times the victims are being questioned. Like what I just described them. No, it was the chant we made for that player. I said, no, it wasn't. Like literally, he called my friend and teammate, not just from my club, but also from the national team. He called him the N-word. Like, what are you on about? And you had like a kid standing next to you. That's the role model you want to be. And I think players are just scared a lot of the time. If you take it away from racism, apart from personal experiences that players have where they felt they're not being taken seriously and people are just saying, no, it wasn't like that, you misheard it, blah, blah, blah. You feel like you're alone a lot of the time, I think. I mean, if you think about the time when things happened to you, how did you feel, for example? I'm sure that you would have wished maybe for some of your teammates or even your gaffer at the time maybe to speak up for you in a certain sense, you know? Maybe you can confirm that feeling I just described. It's like you feel like you're fighting by yourself in your corner, and that's not really great. So I think a lot of players just go back to just trying to deal with it, be a man about it, when being a man about it would actually be to speak up.
Yeah, I think you almost feel like you need a lawyer to next to your side if you're going to make any sort of point, if you're going to go against what's gone on or go against football in general. You feel like you need every single bit of your story bulletproof, which it shouldn't be like that, because I think the obvious discussion is that in any other workplace, if any sort of abuse or any sort of problems occur, that you'll be heard. You've got a great example in Indonesia as well.
Yeah. It happens in our country, in Indonesia. But this one isn't about racism. It's about Yuran Fernandez. He spoke out about the quality of the league that he's playing. And it turns out he got 12 months banned from the federation. That's make other players scared.
Yeah.
To speak up because the consequences right in front of their eyes. 12-month bans. But again, I think it's a big homework for us, not only for the union, but also the fans, the federation, all the stakeholders, because like I said before, it's our responsibility because we enjoy the game together and we cannot run from its responsibility to respect the game, including the players.
Yeah, of course. And Leon, one of the other things, it's such a fine line, right? Because to create those atmospheres and to be involved in those big moments in football, it requires the passion. It requires the kind of energy that you don't really get anywhere else. But how do you think it impacts players' mental health when it oversteps the mark, when it becomes too much?
I think probably at first, when you're exposed to it, when you see it, especially if it's not yourself, you kind of laugh about it almost. Because to be very honest, some of the things that you do read or hear are actually hilarious. As long as you're not affected. If it gets to you and it goes like below the belt, it's painful, I think, because I think, and I've been there, I'm never one to really go into comment sections and all sorts, but every now and then you get tagged, you see something, friends send you something whatsoever. And then you're like, oh, wow. And then you start maybe to scroll a bit, to look into it a little bit. And then for me, it was like, let's say it was a situation in the game and you have your own perception. You know what happened in the moment.
Yeah.
But people have seen something completely different. They don't know what's going through your mind in the moment, why you made the decision you made. And then all of a sudden, you read those comments or you hear, like, even just read something in the media. And then you start to question yourself. And you start to question your ability and your craft, what you trained for every single day, what you have trained for years. And you know better, but it just takes so much to get you over the edge to actually go into like a kind of a dark place almost.
Yeah.
Then again, for me personally, it never went all the way there, but it's not a nice feeling. Like, it's just, you go in there and then, like we said before, you don't really feel there's a lot of support, and then maybe you speak to a teammate, you speak to your parents or family or girlfriend, wife, whatever, which normally is not the best if it's somebody close to you because they will try to make sure that you feel good.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I feel like there's a bit of a lack of an understanding, not because they don't want to, but because they're not in the same situation. So you might go to a player, and then if you don't feel that kind of validation for what you go through in the moment, you're like, and then you maybe start to feel alone. So it's tough. And like we said early on, you need a thick skin in some places more than in others. But overall, I think it's just something where, for me, media especially, they need to take a huge part of accountability, because I think they kind of give out narratives that then become accepted socially, and if they go below the belt, why should anybody behind a keyboard not do it, And this is for me like a social code of conduct that for me got lost along the way. And with that, the respect went, and therefore people aim lower and lower.
I feel that responsibility in my new line of work, as a media and as a pundit. I feel really, really responsible when I'm critiquing a player or critiquing a circumstance. I feel like my job is to explain why I think it happened, or what was the build-up. I just couldn't sit on there and just say, he's not trying, or that's not good enough, or all these sorts of things that I've heard through my career. And like you say, will create a narrative and will encourage people to go lower and lower and lower. I think my job in the media is to explain a situation, what I think could have happened, what obviously I think could have been done better, but also take into account that in that moment, you talked about it just before, those split-second decisions that you make at the highest level that cost you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad player if you make a bad decision, but you can see it when I'm watching the game and I'm working out. That's the moment that they probably thought they could have done it. It wasn't the right decision. Someone got in there before them, or they weren't aware of what was behind them. And I think there's a real responsibility. But just moving on from that, Leon, what would your advice be to players who are struggling?
Be open about it with the people that you feel you can trust. Ideally, you don't just feel that way, you can trust them. And for me, I've always been the type of person that just likes to speak about how I feel. So I've got my family, I've got my girlfriend, I've got like my friends circle. And I'm quite self-critical. I have my agent as well, who's like a second father to me, which also is not something every player can say, I think.
Yeah.
He's available. I can always reach him, unless he's on a plane somewhere again. It's a little dig at him, but no, he's fine. And no, but always he's always there. And yeah, don't be scared to speak about it, because at the end of the day, I didn't want to interrupt you there before, but you might make a bad decision on the pitch, but like you said, it does make you a bad player. No. That's one. What it does make you is it makes you human.
Yeah.
Because who out of everyone is free from mistakes? None of us.
No one.
And we just happen to do something that is getting scrutinized heavily. We do it in front of a million eyes and ears. And that's part of the job, yeah. But I think, like you said, as a pundit, especially as an ex-player, that's something I always wonder, like how some of them are so harsh. So I think if you actually see that as your job to create an awareness for people, to make them realize what goes on through a player's mind in a moment, that this helps massively, And for the players themselves, stay away from comment sections, obviously. I know it's not always easy, because at the same time, some go there to just get some accolades, and then maybe you felt you had a great game, then you go into the comment section, and all of a sudden you feel like you're the worst player in the world, So it's a tricky one, because look at young players nowadays. We grew up more or less, or half of our careers probably, without social media.
Yeah.
What are you telling them now? There's no young player now that has a career without social media. I think it's a bit of a curse at the same time as it might be a blessing, you've all the brand partnerships, all the nice stuff that can come off of it. But what do we talk about the most?
Yeah, I think you've got to trust your own judgment as well. When you've got to a certain level, you're skilled and you can see and and you understand. And if you're your own harshest critic, then I'm sure that's all you need to know.
For me, it's tough sometimes, because my agent told me that. He said, Leon, don't be always too hard on yourself, because nobody can be perfect. You played an amazing game, but don't get caught up on like this or that. There's a learning curve to it,
Yeah.
But that's one thing I wanted to ask you. If you were speaking to yourself on the last time you walked out for Manchester City, or at the point where you walked out of Manchester City, what would you tell yourself back then?
I'd probably tell myself exactly how I felt. This is a situation that's not necessarily about you. And I also strongly believe that I can only be as good as I possibly can be. And if that's not good enough for someone or a team, then so be it. That doesn't break my heart. I never thought I was the best. I don't claim to be the best. There's a confidence in me that says I'm good enough for someone. So it's just about finding that right place and not letting one moment ruin the memory of something that was so beautiful.
Or define you.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So at the end of each podcast, we like to do some quickfire questions. We've got 3 here for Leon. So first one being, give me one thing that helps you reset mentally.
Music.
Yeah?
Music and prayer, yeah.
Same song, same prayer, or does it vary?
Depending on how I feel, because for me, prayer has become, in general, my faith. I've reconnected quite heavily. I think right now I'm at the point where I probably have the best relationship with God that I've ever had. And then, like I said, it just depends on how I feel. And in terms of music, just what I feel like. It could be Afro beats. Sometimes it could be just a classical song. Surprise. But just whatever makes me feel good.
Beautiful. Right, second one. What's your proudest moment on or off the pitch?
Wow. Proudest moment. Definitely walking out against Argentina at the World Cup in front of my parents' eyes. Off the pitch. Also has to do with my parents, probably. I was able to, through what I do, like buy them a new car. And my parents are from a generation where they don't accept much.
Yeah.
So whenever I wanted to give them some sort of support, whatever, I said, no, this is your money. You are basically breaking your bones and all sorts to make this happen. We don't want any bit of it. So but I could convince them to accept a new car. So and that was very nice to see them, like the pride they felt themselves. That was special to me.
That's beautiful. And third, and finally, and a question that I really do love to ask, what is it that you love most about being a professional footballer?
I think being able to do what gives me so much joy. Obviously, there's a lot of things coming into it when you're a professional.
Yeah.
But it's the dressing room, the banter, the competitiveness about it.
I know that.
And just having that sense of community, and once you cross the line, you step on the field, it's just about your team and making sure you win the game. So that's special. And I know for sure when the day is going to come, I'm going to miss that the most.
Yeah, you will. Trust me, you will. I speak from experience. Well, Leon, thank you so much for your time. You've been an incredible guest. And good luck with everything, yeah?
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And I've really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you very much, Leon. Appreciate it. Well, gotcha. Leon is an incredible guy. Really fascinating. What did you take from that conversation?
What stood out the most about this conversation is how he clearly described his emotion, right? About the feelings, the noise, the pressure that getting to him, the mental health, both on and off the pitch. Hearing that from such a big player like him, I hope this really encourages another young player to be able to speak up and describe their emotion, not only keeping it for themselves.
Yeah, what I loved about the way Leon spoke is he was very fair, very understanding that it's a difficult environment, and I'm very aware as a player that for football to be at the level it is, for the money to be invested, it has to be on the edge. It has to have those high emotions and has to have the public buy-in. But I think it's important to say that there's a clear line that people don't need to cross. And when they do, I think it's really important that players have a sanctuary and they have a process they can go through.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to players who felt like they were struggling?
From my point of view, the players has to understand their value, because once you realize your value, you will never be afraid to speak out about the truth, the harm that you are really feeling, the racism. And the second one, you have to be more concise about the social media. You cannot scroll it all the time.
Yeah.
You have to manage the time. And also, I think there are now so many social media education where they teach you what to filter.
Yep.
Because if you keep getting good comments, it's also bad for you.
Yeah, of course.
And otherwise, if you keep getting worse threat messages, it's also bad for you. So to balance it's not easy, but I think that's the world we are facing right now. So yeah, the option is to deal with it. It's to keep your emotion balanced.
I think it's important that players know that there are people there and there are people that are trying to help them in any way they are, and they're heard.
Yes.
So I think that's vital, and one thing that's great that's come out today.
In this kind of world right now, there are so many noises that we cannot pretend that we don't hear. So we have to improve ourselves.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree.
With more education, yes.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Gotcha, thank you very much for your time.
I'm the one who thank you.
I appreciate your effort coming here. It's truly special, so thank you.
And thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me for Footballers Unfiltered, a show brought to you by FIFPRO, sharing real conversations between players on and off the pitch to you. Footballers Unfiltered is recorded at Spotify Studios and is available on all podcast platforms, so hit follow wherever you're listening. And for the full, up-close and personal experience, you can watch every episode on Spotify. I'm Joe Hart, and this has been Footballers Unfiltered. See you next time.